Hey folks, welcome back to TheByteBit. In today's video, we're going to take a look at a script that was just released by Corbin Davenport. We'll take a look at his GitHub page in a second. And essentially what it does is it allows us to install the Adobe Application Manager and get some CC software, some Dreamweaver and Photoshop, the CC versions onto your Linux environment. And in this case, we're going to be using Ubuntu 17.10. Now, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. First, you do need Wine, obviously, because we're going to be installing the 32-bit versions that are usually meant for Windows. And you don't get the whole suite. That is to say, I think it only comes with Lightroom 5, version 5, and not CC, which is version 6.0. But if you're looking to get Dreamweaver or Photoshop, or if you want a cleaner way of utilizing the Adobe Application Manager, I think this is probably your best bet to go with until you choose or look towards some other solution, like installing a virtual machine or having a laptop running another OS of some kind, like Mac or Windows. But we're going to take a look at the setup process here. We're going to try to install it and then see how well we do with Photoshop, and let's take it from there. So let's go ahead and start by taking a look at the GitHub page here for the script. Now, as I said, the developer's name is Corbin Davenport, and I will, of course, put all of the links we're going to use today in the description down below in case you guys are interested in taking a look at this a little bit more. Now, if you take a look at the files here, you can see the script was uploaded about 7 days ago, and he updated the README page about 4 hours ago. So, as it states, this is Creative Cloud for PlayOnLinux. Now, PlayOnLinux, for those of you that are not familiar, is the front-end GUI for Wine. Wine is the emulation engine that allows you to install Windows applications in the Linux operating system. So he goes on to say that you'll get Adobe Application Manager, and from there you can install Photoshop, Dreamweaver, Illustrator, and a few other apps. Obviously, this isn't the full list, but it kind of gives you a glimpse here of what you can do. By the way, the try and the install, again, for those of you that are unfamiliar, just means that the install is something that's part of his subscription plan that he pays for. In fact, you can see he's logged into the application here on the left-hand side. Try just means it's not a part of his subscription, but the application allows you to install it and give it a test run, if you will. Now, for this video, I'm actually going to be using my subscription or my ID. Let's just, make things easy for us as we test out installing Photoshop and seeing how this works. Now, he also does go on to make a note about, the fact that this is for Photoshop CC 2015 and Lightroom 5 that's been extensively tested. Doesn't install CC 2017 of the applications, so only the early versions. Now, this leads me to a really good point, and I want to make this because if you are one of those people that are heavily involved with all things Adobe and you work in Photoshop extensively and you work with Dreamweaver and for your web projects and you have Lightroom for all of your photo editing needs, this may not be the best solution to go with if you intend to make this your main PC or your main driving machine for Adobe purposes. The reason I say that is because there is a layer of abstraction that Wine presents itself with. After all, you're not installing this natively onto the PC or onto the operating system, so there's always a possibility of issues and memory and configuration and updates that you're trying to deal with, and you will deal with continuously in order to get the latest version or that particular feature that you need installed and working. So again, there are a whole host of other solutions and methodologies I would kind of suggest at this point. Again, if you're heavily involved with Adobe, you might want to just install a virtual machine for Windows. You can get a Windows Home license for like 99 bucks on Amazon and install all of the software on it and give it as much memory as you need with full driver support and so on. Or you can have another machine like another Windows laptop or a Mac laptop, again based on your needs. This is a great thing, and I think that this is sort of a band-aid. I think Adobe is missing out on the folks that use Linux, and they really should invest the time. But until they do, this is just a workaround to get it working. But if your business depends on it, if your major source of income is working with these pieces of software, again, I would recommend you guys look at another solution rather than trying to patch it and get it working here. So, just hopefully that point helps you guys out or makes the decision easier for you guys. So it goes on to talk about the script and how to install it. It's pretty simple. And the script is just that. It's basically a culmination of all of the components and fonts and stuff that you're going to need to sort of have the best running chance at getting this to work. And that's the key words here. It's really a chance. I mean, some things could go wrong. You may have some packages on your particular flavor of Linux that it doesn't like. So, test this out. Test as much as you possibly can, especially if you feel that you're going to use this in the day-to-day world for your business or source of income in that regard. So it goes on to talk about some background information about the script and how to get it working, and the fact that he even says it here. I made the script because getting Creative Cloud working in Wine is pretty difficult. I mean, he out and out says it right there. So take this for what it is. All right, so enough of that. Let's go ahead and just minimize this guy here. I'm going to go ahead and click on PlayOnLinux here and let this load, and we're going to go ahead and start the installation. So I've already downloaded the script to the desktop here, and in fact I'm going to go ahead and just open it up in text editor, and you can see that it it basically goes through the steps from the background info on his web page, on the GitHub page, about what it's trying to do, the dependencies, the fact that it tries to pull down the Adobe Application Manager setup itself, which I think is a great help here. So simple. You can go through this much more in detail if you'd like. I'm going to close this out here. I'm going to go back to PlayOnLinux. We'll go to Tools and run a local script here. Now this process can vary greatly depending on the speed and resources your system has. This is a virtual machine. I think I threw this thing like 8 gigs with 2 VCPs, so it should go relatively quickly, but again, just as a heads up, this could be totally different in terms of a time frame for you guys. Let's go ahead and click next here. I'm gonna go ahead and click browse. Let's go to the desktop. Select the script. We'll say next. Here it's warning you that the signature of the script doesn't actually jive with the PlayOnLinux folks, and that's fine. One of the benefits, again, of working with open source software and scripts is that this is not compiled into an exe that you can't decode and look at. It's a script that's available. You can go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and if you don't feel like running it, you choose not to. So I'm going to go ahead and say next, and in fact, it even gives you the code here that it intends to run. So I'm going to say agree for this purpose, and we'll click next. So here we are on the installation page. It's just talking about some general, FYI for you to keep in mind. I'm going to go ahead and say next to this guy. Now, I already went through this just once. In fact, I didn't even get through all the way. So that's why it's actually telling me that a virtual drive cloud, Creative Cloud exists. The way that Wine works is that it creates a virtual disk. So it can emulate the drive letters for Windows, and so it creates it with the name you give it. In this case, it's called Creative Cloud. I'm actually just going to erase everything, and we're going to go through and click next. And here, it's going to go ahead and set up the process here. And so anytime you install a piece of software, it creates this win prefix / directory name in Wine or PlayOnLinux, and whatever name you give it is what you'll see there. So just keep that in mind, because if you do intend to install some software, you need to go to that folder to reach out to those individual files. So it's missing the fonts. That's great. Let's go ahead and click next and say yes. Install it, please. All right, and then this is just telling you that you can choose the installer for the Creative Cloud installer, but this script will actually download it for you. Again, that's perfect. I'll click next, and it's just giving you this important note here that it's, the installer about to finish logging in, so it'll pop up for you. You log in with your credentials, and then you can come back here and then finish with the installation. So I'm just going to give it a couple of seconds here because it's actually downloading it, and it's going to pop up in a minute or two for me, and then I will resume the video once it does. So here we are with the installer. You can see that it actually took a minute or two, but came up for me, and it's downloading the necessary installer file. So again, I'll go ahead and just pause this video so you guys don't have to sit and wait and watch this thing go through. Alright, so that really didn't take too long, and what you're presented with here is the ID and password you need to put in to, again, log into the Adobe world, if you will. Now you can always go ahead and create an Adobe ID that you guys can use. You have to create one. They won't let you use this application without one. I'm going to go ahead and just log in with my credentials here just so that we can move on and get to the install process a little bit quicker. So let's just go ahead. I'm going to pause while I do that and I'll be right back. Okay, so entered in my credentials and we're going to go through this process here. It basically just logs in, calls the Adobe servers, and then presents you with a list of software that you can use, or list of software that you can install. And you can actually see, just I've logged in with my credentials now. My name will be listed here, and you can actually log out if you need to. So it's asked me to accept the agreement. I'll say accept. And here's this initial list here. Now, the GitHub page does make a comment about the fact that you don't see any CC versions of the software, and all you need to do is just go ahead and close out of the application manager, and we're going to go ahead and say next to this guy, and I'm going to go ahead and double click on the Adobe Application Manager again. And once this loads up for us, you'll see that it'll give us the full list version with the CC versions of the applications for us to utilize. Alright, so that took about 30 to 45 seconds to kind of populate the list here. And you can see now we see Bridge CC, Dreamweaver CC, Edge, and a few others. And if I scroll down here, here's Lightroom 5. Again, this is not Lightroom CC, so it's not the, what is it, the 2015 version, I believe. That's when the latest version came out in April of 2015, if I remember that correctly. And then you've got Photoshop CC here. So let's go ahead and use Photoshop CC because primarily that's the biggest guy, I think. You know, most folks need that or are willing to test that out. So you can see that it says install here. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's click on that. And so this is great because the Adobe Application Manager will download the set of files it needs, and it'll install the files, and then the next thing you'll see here is it'll say launch. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video again so you guys don't have to wait for this process, and I'll be back. So here we are back again, the installation completed. So it wasn't too long, took a couple of minutes to do, you know, both, I should say, from downloading to extracting and installing the app. So here we can go ahead and launch the app real quick from here and see how it goes. So actually I tried to launch it the first time and it looked like it tried to load into the application and then it just failed for me. It gave me an error for Photoshop. So what I did was I actually closed out of everything, try to load back Adobe Application Manager, and I do see that it shows you it's up to date, which is great, but I don't have a way to launch it. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out and show you guys how to create a shortcut, which I've had to do with other software in the past. Let's go ahead and close this out here. You can see that it's got Adobe Application Manager. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure it's highlighted, and I'll click Configure. And I'm going to go ahead and click this button here that says Make a New Shortcut from this virtual drive. And so it's going to go ahead and scan the Creative Cloud virtual drive and try to give you all the icons or the EXEs and things you might want to launch. Now there's a bunch in here, and I believe I should get, here it goes, Photoshop. All right, I'll highlight it and click Next. That's fine, we can leave it named as Photoshop here, no problems. And so when I'm done, you'll see it actually show up here on the left-hand side. In fact, it actually created an icon on the desktop for me as well, which is pretty nice. I don't need any more, so I'm going to hit cancel, and there it is. You can see that listed right here as a shortcut. In fact, if I close this out, you'll see now that Photoshop is listed here. So let's go ahead and open it up for the second time, and we'll keep our fingers crossed and see what happens. Okay, so, okay. Double click gives you the new window here. Let's go ahead and click OK and see what happens. Gives you the 3D features warning, obviously because I don't have enough virtual memory set for this. That's fine. You can always change that in the PlayOnLinux configuration. And it looks like we're set up here. This is great. Looks pretty good to me. Let's see. Let's go ahead and just make sure our file menus work. I'll go into preferences here real quick. Actually, let's take a look at the 3D here for a quick second. Yep, so it's telling you that the available memory is 32 megs. Obviously, it isn't enough to do that. Let's go back into general. We can see the color picker. We can change it to Windows, interface. I gotta say, so far so good. It doesn't seem to be too bad. Now, I'm not the greatest Photoshop person in the world, so I wouldn't, pretend to try to do something that's intensive. I do know that filters usually take the longest, so let's just try and see if we can do an average blur filter. Let's see if it crashes on us or gives us the desired results here. Let's just draw something out here, and we'll say filter. How about blur? Okay, looks like that took. Let's do a render clouds, because that does take some time. That wasn't too bad. And then we can come into distort, and we'll displace it here. Say okay. No, it's actually asking me to do that. Again, folks, not the greatest Photoshop person here in the world, so forgive me for not working on this. Let's see if we can enhance that. That's not too bad, right? So far, so good. I'll try to use this for the next couple of days, and then I'll update the description in the video and give you guys my results about how it played on here. So that's not too bad. Now there's a bunch of other applications again, so if you guys are interested, please go ahead and install it and give it a try and see what you guys think. A ton of shout outs to Corbin Davenport for putting the script together for us, making it just a little bit more easier for us to use. So definitely thanks to him for doing that. And again, I'll put the links down in the description below so you guys can click on them if you need to. And hopefully that helps you guys out. So thank you again for watching the video. Hopefully this was informative. And if you guys have any questions, please comment down below, and I'll be glad to help out as best as I can. And I will catch you guys in the next one.